Lasers staged, drones humming, a desert morning painted like chrome. Countdown at 10, 9, 8. The mirrors blinked wrong. Not art, a hijack. Vendors stand back. A guard barked at the woman with the earpiece. Zuri did not stand back. She tapped the comm. We're under. On the dais, Asher, founder's son, allergic to nepotism, went very still. Can you hold the countdown? Zuri, can you hold your nerve? The launch was a marriage, art and tech under a sky that forgets clouds. Mirror sculptures tall as choices, a stage that loved itself. VIPs who came for spectacle and would claim they came for vision. The company needed a clean debut. The city needed something to post. The budget needed a miracle disguised as competence. Zuri's team managed the part nobody applauds when it goes right: safety. Cyber mesh drones, sculpture firmware, perimeter networks, signal hygiene. She had learned in a dozen rooms that safety is the only art form where applause is a warning sign. The screens bled into crude graffiti, not political, not even clever, just contempt wearing a GIF. The crowd split into two groups, those who whispered, "This is art," and those who whispered, "This is a lawsuit." Zuri zoomed. 5 windows opened: packet capture, node map, drone telemetry, sculpture heartbeat, and an old terminal she trusted like a rock in a river. A security chief strode over, optics dripping from his vowels. Power cycle, fast. Zuri said, "Power cycles hide intruders. I prefer evictions." She painted the mesh map in color. Blue nodes calm, yellow stuttering, red misbehaving like interns on their first stipend. 1 red hopped, 2 hopped, then 1 stayed. Too confident to flee, like someone who thinks the audit will never come. She smiled without showing teeth. "She found you." "Where?" Asher asked, already moving. "PR tent," she said. He blinked. "Public relations?" She said, "People who manage the narrative like to pre-write the ending." They cut across cables and VIP chatter, under a banner that promised a future no one had debugged. Inside the PR tent, a laptop tried to look innocent and failed the color test. Zuri did not request permission, she requested logs. Split tunnel, rogue hotspot broadcasting a name similar to the trusted SSID, 1 letter off, the fraud that hides inside trust. Payload disguised as an art filter with a hash that did not match the one shipped last night. "Copycat firmware," Zuri said. "Cheap trick." "Who?" Asher asked. "Someone who wanted a headline this afternoon and a promotion tomorrow." Asher looked at the stage, looked at Zuri. You could see the decision land. He walked to the mic. "We're pausing the show to keep it honest," he said, voice stable. "Our cyber team will restore safely. We'll explain what happened. Thank you for holding with us." A murmur rolled across the desert. It sounded like a crowd choosing adulthood for 3 seconds and then become strangers again. Zuri isolated the rogue node, fenced it, and replayed mirrored frames from 30 seconds before the deface. "Rollback, not reboot," she told ops. "Trust your checksums." She pushed a signed update to the mesh, not the lazy, latest, but the exact build she could defend in court. Drones reformed overhead like a flock remembering its grammar. A security officer arrived with a quiet escort from the PR tent. No cuffs, just policy. Walking. The mirrors cleared one by one, apology in reverse. The crowd exhaled in the way strangers become a choir for 3 seconds and then become strangers again. "On my count," Asher said into the mic, handing credit where it belonged. 3, 2, light. Music rose, this time not covering a wound. Asher waved Zuri up. She hesitated. She does not prefer lenses. Please, he said, the person who saved the launch. She stepped into the light, not like a hero, like someone who likes things to work. Effective immediately, Asher continued. We're publishing an incident transparency write-up, launching a bug bounty and placing safety co-equal with spectacle. Applause found its hands. Backstage, Zuri closed the last window. Her hands stopped shaking the way hands do when they are allowed to. Asher brought water. You didn't flinch, he said. I flinched. I just didn't leave. He smiled like someone who was waiting to respect someone and finally got to. Co-lead the safety initiative with me, and when we're not patching, coffee at sunrise. Sunrise is off-peak for hacks. Yes. That afternoon, the company blog published in plain language what happened, how they knew, what they changed. No nouns thrown under buses. Credits named, footnotes for the curious, screenshots for the skeptical, a fixed timeline for the impatient. The post ended with an email for bug reports and a sentence that tasted like integrity. Thank you for making us better. The internet did what the internet does. Some sneered, some learned. The people who mattered saved the link. Bug bounty live by morning. The first report paid with cash and a note instead of a muzzle. The ops room taped a handwritten rule to a monitor. Trust the checksums. Vendors updated their briefs. Security became safety. Not because words matter, but because words teach people where to look. A week later, at a smaller show and tell for community partners, the mirrors flickered for a breath. Zuri's heart spiked, old reflex, then calmed. Packet capture clean, telemetry with invariants. The flicker was a cloud moving like a bird. Safe. She let herself laugh. Not everything is an adversary, she said, mostly to herself. Sometimes it's shade, Asher said, appearing with coffee. Congratulations, you've learned weather. They traded stories. He hated his last name when it opened doors he hadn't earned. She hated the word just when it stood in front of jobs that saved the day. He collected bad prototypes to remind himself where arrogance lives. She kept an ancient ThinkPad because it had never lied to her. They agreed to be boring in the ways that keep you brave and brave in the ways that keep you kind. A journalist asked for a tour. Zuri made them sign a safety waiver that did not smell like fear. She showed them the node map. She showed them the build server with the grumpy sign, "We ship what we can defend." She showed them a drone, grounded, because heroes nap. Why not pretend it never happened? The journalist asked. Because reality prefers the sun, Zuri said. Asher? Because art that can't survive a pause wasn't art. A different department tried to rush a feature without the checklist. Asher caught it, not with genius, with the boredom of someone who had learned to love forms. He said pause, run the play. They ran the play. The feature shipped a day later and did not page anyone at 2 a.m. No one wrote a think piece. Zuri bought donuts for the team like a ritual offering. They made a habit of what the world calls small, early coffees with laptops closed, walking the site perimeter without speaking, watching drones lift like prayers, learning to like silence. He told a story about a prototype that failed on stage and how he still hears the sound of 1,000 people learning his name in sympathy. She told a story about a college hackathon where she won nothing and learned everything. They didn't label it. They just kept showing up where the other would be. They opened the site one afternoon to local students. Zuri taught them to read a checksum like a poem with all the vowels removed. Asher taught them to point at a sculpture and ask, what would make this honest? A teenager raised a hand. How do you know you're the good guys? You don't, Zuri said. You check. The mirrors became less backdrop and more teacher. People stopped taking selfies and started taking notes. The art wrote its own caption quietly. "We paused, we fixed, we told you." At the quarterly, investors asked about the incident in the off-the-record voice of on-the-record man. Asher answered, "We lost 15 minutes and gained a culture." He showed charts that make courage visible: mean time to detect, mean time to remediate, mean time to apology. They nodded in the way money nods when it recognizes a better bet. At a festival abroad, a vendor's display began to stutter. The instinct from the old world was to push through and pray. The new instinct, learned under a desert sun, was to pause on stage. "We'll be right back," the MC said, smiling without lying. Zuri's team rolled a known good build in under 5 minutes. The crowd applauded not the fix, but the respect. The clip did numbers for all the right reasons. Not drama, adulthood. Sunrise, on a day without launches, 2 cups steaming. The desert doing its best ocean impression, waves of light across dunes. Asher said, "I used to think success meant never pausing." "And now?" Zuri asked. "Now I think success is knowing when." She bumped his shoulder with hers. "Patch publicly," she said. He grinned. "Patch publicly." The bug bounty leaderboard with usernames that read like inside jokes and heroes. A pull request titled "Impossible Without Zuri" that she merged with a smiley no one saw. A vendor training deck slide. "When in doubt, stop. When safe, say why." A child at the community day whispering to a sculpture, then listening as if it might answer. At the next big show, the mirrors held. The drones drew a line in the air that looked like a promise a person could keep. The crowd gasped, then breathed. In the control tent, Zuri watched green lights stay green. In the owner's box, Asher felt the small pulse of fear he would always feel for anything worth doing, and then the steadiness that follows a decision done right. He glanced toward the tent where a woman who trades anger for precision moved like calm in boots. The banner above the stage did not shout. It did not brag. It simply reflected faces that looked a little braver than last season. There are 1,000 ways to pretend safety is the enemy of magic. There is only one way to build magic that lasts. Tell the truth while the lights are on. They called her just security. History calls her the person who paused the launch and taught a company how to walk.